Archbishop, the late Archbishop Cyprian Inquisitor Luanga was very good at this kind of maths. You know, so many Catholics, 1,000 each, so we are going to get at least 2 billions from the fundraising for the TV. And we launched it, and with this kind of a network, we got 400 millions. So it's kind of flow. Yeah, but we 400 millions, not 2 billions that we needed, right? Because actually we started the TV without a capital. You know? Normally when a politician or a group starts a television, they've got a capital to invest, and for some years they're not going to get any money out of it. They will get it later on. We didn't have that capital. The capital is our people, but our people, many of them they were not there, right? They're there on the paper, but they're not there practically, right? So that is one thing. Then the other one is a clear example. These days, the people from the substation of Tororo were supposed to be here with us. This event, the Caritas Week, is an event which is national. It is something that must be made known. Our people would be interested in knowing what Caritas is doing, not just their own, with which maybe they have some problems because of Father so and so on, but Caritas at large, all right? But we failed to cover it. Somebody will come tomorrow, all right, for the closing, the mass and so on. But what to me was interesting was the procedures, the work being done with some, not to cover everything, of course, but having interviews, asking people which are the problems, the difficulties, the successes, and so on. Something really close to the life of the people. That's why, while it is true and important that the TV maybe goes where the bishop goes and so on, the Uganda Catholic Television is not a television, I hope I don't scandalize people being a bishop. It's not just meant for masses and rosaries and religious programs alone, all right? It is to be reflecting the life of the people, their problems, the women, the youth, through interviews, through seeing what they are doing, where they fail, and so on. So we want, and there will always be some religious programs, but we want to reflect the life of the people, particularly of the youth, who are the majority of the people in Uganda, all right? And that's why you're also present on the social media, all right? So, people do not come. Why? Because of money, or a lack of money, or inability of the Austin diocese to pay for their stay and so on and so on and so on. So it is a kind of vicious circle. Huh? We need content, but to produce content, we need money, right? And without content, we cannot go on the DSTV platform, all right? You cannot get sponsors to our programs and so on. So, yes, we need money, but from you, first of all, and I'm grateful for the initiative and the proposal which was made about money and supporting money, but please, let all of you give us content. You have got it. It's not you have got to create it. It's what you are doing for the people, with the people. So document it, of course, in a professional way, which may, be up to the standard of the TV. But if we can do this, I'm sure that in a short time, relatively short time, we shall be able to increase very much our local content and reach out to more people. And Uganda Catholic Television will be a success because in itself it has got a potential. We want to reflect the life of the church, we mean the people, the Christian communities throughout Uganda. And mind you, not only the Christians, but even other people are interested in justice and peace, in agriculture, in development, and so on. It is in our hands. I mean, I started it, and I'm still right for the time being. But I mean, I want the tree to go on and grow. And it is up to us, up to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now back to the appropriate session. Thank you very much. Now back to you for the next program.
Let's give a round of applause to Salahela. So I welcome Mr. Michael to take us through the next session and introduce our panelists for today.
Thank you. Good morning, dear delegates. Yes, I'm Joseph Michael Tenga. I am a staff working with Caritas Jinja. I've been usually sitting behind, but today I've been given a chance to come at the front. I bring you back from that session that we've had. We are here for the next part of our program, which is a symposium, where we are brainstorming on how to transform Busoga to a cash-based economy. We are looking at moving the household to a cash-based economy. Of course, it's basically an open discussion, and when we talk of Busoga, it's simply a case study. But I think the same may be needed for other areas, maybe Gulu, Nebi, Mbarara, and the like. And so today we are joined by a number of visitors, and I wish to invite the different people here who are going to be taking us through the discussion. Is that well? Oh, okay, thank you. With us, we've been joined by Dr. Christopher Lubogo Isaac. He is a lawyer by training. He's an advocate with a long history of his practice. But other than that, he has been a lecturer in different universities, and he comes today to represent the academia. He is an award-winning author in 2022 and in 2025. He has published over 70 publications, these including books and papers. So Dr. Christopher Lubogo, you're most welcome, and I just invite you to take up a seat at the front. We have been joined by, I'll seek some assistance. Peter, kindly come and help me out. Yes, thank you. We would like to
also welcome the second
panelist,
panelist,
that's Mrs. Lydia Naiswe. Lydia Naiswe is a development specialist, but largely into resource mobilization for civil society organizations. She holds different certificates and degrees and masters, but currently she's working at the Cultural Research Center, Jinja. And today she comes in to represent the director for the Cultural Research Center, Jinja, because of the extensive research that the Cultural Research Center, Jinja, has undertaken within Jinja and within Busoga, and having the development specialist, her presence to the panel makes a very big contribution. Most welcome, Madam Lydia Naiswe. The third person on the panel would like to recognize the presence and welcome Mr. Lincoln Opio. He is a program manager at College Uganda. He has worked on a number of projects, but other than being a program manager for College Uganda, his person or his personality has been so much out there, especially in fostering development initiatives. They have undertaken different programs in parts of Nebi, in northern Uganda, but also they have been in parts of Busoga, largely in Kamuli. So his experience, especially in development, he has really developed himself around issues of startups and initiatives and transformation of communities. And Mr. Lincoln Opio, you are most welcome. We'd like to recognize the presence of the RDC of Mbarara. He has graced the occasion and he's among the panelists. We'd like to invite you, Mr. RDC, to take up a seat, to be a part of the conversation. Most welcome. And so this is our panel. We've just had to sample out the different people. Mr. RDC represents the government. Mr. Isaac Lubogo represents the academia. Mr. Opio Lincoln from Kodaid, Uganda represents the civil society organizations. And Madame Lydia represents Busoga as a researcher, but also coming from the Cultural Research Center, Jinja. This is the panel that we have. It's not a speech, it's not a presentation, it's a discussion. And I'll be moderating it in a few minutes. It's going to be so brief and very insightful. Yes, thank you so much. He was actually whispering to me. The other person who is supposed to be with us is the District Production Officer for Jinja District, Mr. Kasada Tom. However, last week he had an operation and it was a successful operation, but he's unable to join in today. And he has sent Mr. Kagwa Shafan to represent the office of the District Production Officer. And it is that last seat that we have at the extreme end. Here we have a fully constituted panel, and would like to basically have an exchange, an interaction. As the audience, we have mainly members of Caritas organizations or Caritases. I'd like to simply make a simple highlight about Caritas to the panelists. Caritas is found in each diocese, and so we have Caritas Jinja, Caritas Bulu, Caritas Lira, and so the whole country is represented here. The different people here undertake different developmental programs within the different communities. And so what will be shared here will not only stop in Busoga, but it will be extended even to other communities. Their questions, their inputs will be very insightful. The theme today is, how do we transform the households to a cash-based economy? Can we drive people from subsistence production, where they can attach a monetary value to every undertaking? Yesterday, the other day, we had a visit to Chidera in Buyende, but also we know the communities where we work. We look at these households and our question is, do they earn anything? Can they earn anything? How can we put together the different stakeholders, including government and the civil society organizations, those in academia, to make sure that at the end of the day, we are fostering a balanced development? I stop it at that, and I just want to give 3 minutes to each of the panelists to give a soft introduction and something probably they would wish to share with us about themselves. Then we just go into an open discussion. Thank you. I'll start from here.
Thank you very much, our moderator. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kagwa Shafan. I'm agriculture officer in Jinja District Local Government, and I'm today to represent the District Production and Marketing Officer, who is currently ill and is unable to be here with us. We undertake various activities and do daily interactions with our households, the farmers, the people with the major objective of improving their livelihoods through agriculture. And like they say, the biggest majority are actually the youth. We ensure, and we have ensured, that all our programs are actually gender inclusive. I think that's all for now. I don't know if I make a presentation or it will come later. I think I'll be guided. Thank you very much for listening.
Yes, thanks a lot, moderator and colleagues. Good morning. My name is Lincoln Opio. I work with the CODAID as the program manager for the food system. CODAID is also a Caritas family. It is an NGO founded in the Netherlands that has been working here for the last more than 30 years. And we work in the area of agriculture, strengthening the food system, in health and education. And in Busoga, CODAID has been working here since 2018. And currently we have a program in Jinja and in Kamuli, targeting 500 youth. But also we have another program in Kamuli and Uyende, which is working with the local government of those two districts. And we are focusing on land tenure security, improving extension services. And today, I think is a very special day because we are discussing something which starts with us. I think all of us call ourselves smallholder farmers. And from the level where we are quite aware of how we reach here. And I think that is the same way we also would like to support others to grow. I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much, Caritas Jinja, for giving me the opportunity to be able to come and rub shoulders, intellectually and otherwise. I'm honored and blessed, and I'll be happy to share and also to interact with the team here. Thank you. My name is Isaac Christopher Lugogo. I do lecture law and also do a little research in terms of writings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Caritas. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'm happy to be here this morning. My name is Lydia Naisikwe. I'm a staff at Cultural Research Center. Like our moderator said, I'm a development specialist. And I'm into resource mobilization at the Cultural Research Center for the last 8 years. That's what I've done. I'm here to represent my boss, Reverend Father Richard Kayaga Bonza, who is the CEO of the Cultural Research Center. We have done a number of research in Busoga, and all these researches are documented. We have kept them into the library and the museum, and they can be accessed to the general public. And for these 3 years, we are running projects on functional adult literacy, and in there we are looking at agriculture. We are looking at agriculture as one of the ways that households can improve their livelihoods. We are also looking at land rights in Mayuge district for these 3 years, because we feel land is a key component if households are to move from a subsistence to a cash economy. I'm happy to be here, and I know I'm going to learn a lot from this exchange. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the moderator and fellow panels. My name is panelists. My name is Robert Kanusu. I wish to correct, I'm Deputy RCC of Hoima City, which is known as the Oil City, located in Western Uganda. But I have been interested party in the development of Busoga especially. I come from the journalist background, but I interested myself to learn more with inspiration of great men like Dr. Rugogo, Dr. Frank Noviso the late, and the rest. I did my bachelor's degree in planning and community development. I did my master's in peace and conflict studies because normally development is hindered and challenged by conflict in community, and I'm pursuing my PhD in development studies. So the topic today is one of the areas of my interest, and I'm happy that I will share my experience so far of what I've seen in Busoga and what I've also been learning from the Caritas activities, which are not new to me because I've been around for some time. And I also I have contributed a lot to the research of the Cultural Research Center. I've also been doing some small publications, and I congratulate the Holy Catholic Church for such great initiatives that aim at development.
Yeah, thank you so much, our dear panelists, for the introduction. And I'd like to pick on from Mrs. Lydia when she talks of the question of land. I think land becomes an important factor. Whether you own it or you don't own it, it becomes an important factor. So with your research and experience in Busoga, how has land affected the people's livelihood, and especially we're looking at the ownership part. And we are glad we have an advocate to this effect, and when it comes to the question of land rights, probably he will as well be of much support. So how has ownership rights of land affected production mechanisms within Busoga? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Like I said, land rights is our current project we are going to implement in 2 sub-counties of Mayuge. It's a new project to us. However, as researchers, we discovered that there are dynamics in land. You find that families, when a lady gets married, it is supposed that she owns land with her husband. However, we need to look at she owns, but how does she own it? Because you find that at the end of the day, there are reports that I have cultivated land, but my husband has sold off the produce and have not benefited from it. So we are going there to see how all family members can use land to benefit each other. There are different issues. You own land by access, or you own land in your own right. Land, is it a family land? Is it a customary land? Do children own land in their own rights? So those are the ideas we are going to look at, because whatever we are talking about in as far as Busoga is concerned lies on land as the starting point. So we need to define out the key factors of how family members, households can use land to move to a cash economy. You find that in as far as land is concerned, in Busoga, most of the land is used for subsistence. That is mainly consuming for household consumption and a little for sale. And how far the income got from a little for sale can benefit the household in terms of taking care of medical bills, sending children to school, and other nitty-gritties that families rely on. So all these have to be determined. How do people own land? Do they have access to it? If the father died today, what can happen to the children? What about the extended families? All those. So that's what we are going to look at in the land rights project, to see how people can understand their rights to the extent that they can be able to utilize the land to get money, and as well as care for the homestead nutrition benefits. Thank you for now.
Thank you so much, Madam Lydia. And I want to pick on from that point of land rights and go on to Mr. Dr. Chris Lugogo. We know very well the youth, we have a youth bulge, and the youth should be looked at as a resource. Unfortunately, most of the youth, or many of the youth, do not own the land. The land ownership is largely to those ones who have worked hard to buy the land, or the parents who actually still have the land. So if the youth do not have the land, how then do we ensure that the youth are into production? Dr. Chris, that even these other microphones can actually be used. Oh, sure, thank you very much.
If the youth don't own the land, how sure then do we engage them perhaps or involve them in issues of land production per se for purposes of continuity? That's a good question in the context of which how you brought it up. And when we are talking about the youth, especially in a country like Uganda, one of the highest youth ratio compared to the entire world, by the way, then you know that becomes not only a Busoga problem, but also perhaps a Ugandan problem in terms of the seriousness of the issue. And then when you're talking about the aspect of youth unemployment in Uganda particularly, and when you come to Busoga, we're talking about 35%, you know, of unemployed youth, and then that begins even sending, you know, deeper challenges to us in terms of how do we engage these people called the youth. So it is a very serious problem, and I thank you for asking that question. But to contextualize the question in light of the remedies for the people of Busoga, particularly the youth, as you brought it up, we have a very, very big problem, perhaps in terms of the education. First of all, as an entity, Busoga education. We need to understand that we may not have so many people who say go to universities and after university get jobs. And that is another problem as far as the education system is concerned. Perhaps we need to decolonize that concept of education and see how it acclimatizes with the amends that we have in this country. But as far as the youth of Busoga is concerned, we need to skill up their potential by embracing them first of all, but also teaching them the skills of how to take care of this beautiful and wonderful subject called the land. Because out of the land, then every other thing will be answered. Tell me about what's happening in Iran and America. All those things have to do with the issue of land. Land becomes a big question in terms of survival, food production, in terms of continuity, in terms of abode, in terms of minerals, name it. So when you're dealing with a big question like land, especially amongst the youth, you need to set up parameters or avenues that would encourage them, first of all, to make them participatory, decolonize their mind, also in terms of freezing out those ideologies. He who goes to the garden is not a failure. He who goes to the garden is actually perhaps more important. When you go to countries like Europe and you engage, you find that some of the most richest people are actually those who toil the land. They are able to cultivate it for production. Perhaps the bigger question then becomes, if we're talking about the cultivation of land, well, what kind of cultivation are we talking about? Perhaps that's what you are now going, perhaps what my sister Lydia just mentioned in terms of how now we need to think about beyond the question of growing food for purposes of immediate consumption. So my challenge in terms of your question here would be some of those parameters is acclimatizing the youth, engaging them and training them, skilling them up, and giving them also tools that are relatable to the kind of setting we're in today. A hoe is a very good thing, but if you look at, you could see that there are better now technological advancements that actually do better than a hoe in terms of power consumption. You know, you probably put less. The question of working smart as opposed to working hard becomes a very important aspect. So we need to scale up our youth in terms of soft skills, but in terms of hard skills also, in terms of technical institutes that can teach them and apprentice them. The word is apprentice. Inculcate that ideology into them so they know that now the soil is not a bad thing. The soil is the best thing. And when you do that, we shall have no problems. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. However, there is something I wish to pick from you when you talk of like having parameters that will help the youth change their mindset. And I think there is a general problem. I really don't know why in most cases when actually banks are advertising, they usually pick a photo of a man who is around his retirement age, a man who is beginning to develop gray hair, and they put him around the tractors, especially when banks are advertising loans. There is a way the whole thing of farming has been captured around retirement. So how do we then, I don't know if they are bankers here, but I don't know if you paid attention. You enter a bank, when there is an agribusiness loan, they will not put a youth. They'll put a man approximately in his 60s. So when we talk about decolonizing the minds or changing the minds, whom then do we engage? Because there are those in the business sector and they want this guy in his retirement to invest his retirement package or get a retirement loan or something like that. So how then can we have institutions like banks, the government, and everyone make sure that actually we are all involving the youth into agriculture, just in everything?
Yeah, true, and that's very true in light of what you just painted. It's very true. But the question then becomes, perhaps also these people who are doing those adverts, I believe they are the older generation, but also even the new one, because there is a misconception of what land is. When you talk about land, what hits the person's mind is my grandmother's land in Wuyuge Gadumire, where I come from. You know, they do not understand the strength of that concept. You know, they would rather leave the land, the 5 acres, 10 acres in Wuyuge, and go to Kampala, sleep on the roadsides, and you know, enjoy Bwabwaba and Katandi Kabutandi, those aspects. That's the problem. So we need to decolonize, deconceptualize our minds and make them understand that this is what makes us. This is what has fed us for the next generation. By the way, it's not even a youth problem, so it's an African problem. The African problem becomes even bigger. You know, where we grow food, but we're not even able to export it. We don't have the skills to mature it to those levels where we can actually say it as a product. You go to UK now, the coffee that is grown here is actually more expensive than what you would sell for probably 100 kilos, just a small cup of coffee like this. You go to Germany, I was in Germany, and you look around and look at flimsy, lousy pieces of matoke that we throw to our goats, and they are being sold at €5 plus. Avocados that are squeezed and ramshackled by the way they look, that are being sold at 10, 15 euros, and you're like, what is the problem? Their pineapples are terrible, their bananas are terrible. Those of them come from Brazil and the likes. Even the wonderful matoke that actually come from Uganda, we don't even have the capacity to export it because we don't have the skill, the manpower to refine it. So what they do, they send it to Dubai. After Dubai, they send it to Rwanda, they package it. Inside it is made in Uganda, outside when it's on the shops, in Oncat, for example, or on Freiburg, you see exported from Rwanda, you know, or from certain other countries. So we have a problem. Uganda is potentially rich. We are gifted by nature, like they said. The rains are incredible, the soils, you can throw a seed anywhere and it virtually grows. We just have the wrong people. So even before we talk about the youth, how about the leaders, perhaps?
I think you bring in an aspect of adding value. You bring in an aspect of adding value, or even the aspect of market. And I'd like to go to Mr. Robert, the man from the oil state. You are adding value to the oil. Of course, Busoga maybe not be having the oil, but you also have the oil in our own way. What would be the Busoga oil? What would be the oil of other regions? The point is, how then do we involve the youth into the value chain? Possibly if they don't own land, how can they join part of the value chain? Mr. Robert, how do we have the youth join the value chain, especially in production? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Isaac has elaborated more on that issue. But to me, who is now representing the government here, I see a very big problem when you talk about youth, land issues, and what we view as the prioritization of life. I think the problem that we have currently, both for government and the community and the families, is prioritization of life opportunities. What should we do first? Yeah. To me, when I'm assessing the strengths of the youth population we have, I first of all look at what the concept of human development, which is human development can be viewed as the growth of a human being from an organism to adulthood and back to organism when you die. But I've been to countries which have developed in the last 50 years, like China, Singapore, and others, those Asian tigers. With them, they view human development and define it as a way of defining human capabilities and creating opportunities. That's how they define it. How do you prioritize yourself? How do you view life? Now, when we come back here home, how do our people view life, especially the young men? As we are born and we are growing up, how do we view life? To me, I see that human development should reflect these 7 core pillars. Because once we put much emphasis on how these 7 pillars apply in our everyday life, most of the problems can be solved, either at government level or at community level. You can even take it down to family level. One is knowledge acquisition, which Dr. Isaac has been talking about. How do we acquire our knowledge? How do we impart knowledge to our children when they are growing up? Have we maintained the colonial kind of system, or we are decolonizing and now changing something that can bring productivity from this population? Let's say Uganda has the youngest population in the whole world. But how do we take advantage of this? Yeah, government has tried to change the curriculum now to make sure that our children's learning is simplified and thematically done such that they can easily do they can acquire practical knowledge which can solve problems of community. But there are many things that can also be done, even to us who are already grown up. How do we continue to acquire knowledge? Our human development model, which the other countries have used and has helped them to move faster, is decent standards of living. You yourself as an individual, do you really look at your standard of living? Is it decent enough? When you look at your neighbor, when you look at your community, are you helping even others to look like you? Or you want to be smart alone and then sit in a community which is smelling, stinking, and people even don't mind to wash their faces. They're not even cleaning their teeth. They don't bathe, some of them. They drink the way they want. They continue to suck marua on the same pipe. The whole community, the one with the TB, the other one with what, the other who is already drunk and is still sipping back the saliva, you're also picking up from there. Are we really taking this as serious issues that can change our life? Then promoting equity and social justice as the 3rd pillar. Do you wish yourself the best? Do you also wish it to your neighbor? How do you give justice? How do you fight for justice? As a church, for example, foundation, how are we really bringing these fundamentals to our community? There is also the issue of environmental sustainability, because we are what we are because of nature. How are we participating in the biodiversity? How are we participating in maintaining this land so that even the future generation will find it and use it well? Today we have seen proliferation of chemicals, use of chemicals, fertilizer, and all that, even where land is still intact. People are just putting in fertilizer, saying, oh no, it will do better. But have you tried to do it organically and failed? Then think of applying the fertilizers, or you're just applying it there. So doctors talk about land. I think we need to define it more and how we can also preserve it to make it sustainable for the future. I know today we have been planting seeds, both from these grow shops, and they say you cannot replant the same seeds of the last season. So you have to continue going to buy and plant, go and buy, sell off everything, and go and buy. What has happened to our traditional food chain systems? We used to have our traditional seed varieties, which could exist for generations and generations. Can we maintain the current change to GMOs and use of chemicals and all fertilizers? Can we sustain it? Are we not inviting poverty on our side so fast, even before it knocks? These are issues that we need to really think about. And there's the issue of participation in political and community life. And this is where we are. For youth, when you talk about what they can be able to do, they think about the 7th pillar. I mean the 6th pillar, participation in political and community life. Even a young man who has never understood anything wants leadership position, wants to go to parliament, wants to become mayor, even before he understands what mayorship of a city means, even before he understands what leadership means, he wants to go there because there are a lot of motivations around it. So he just wants to be there. And look at the quality of leaders we are sending to Parliament. Who is representing you in your constituency at Jinja? What can they contribute to the constructive debate in the House? Because it's there for lobbying. What about budgeting issues? Do they understand that even land can go into a budgeting issue question in Parliament for Busoga? Because we have a high population and the population continues growing, our people are poor. Their evening time is spent in bed. So you know what happens when people go to bed early and they are poor, you know. A lot of things are happening, but around this political life, for those countries which are developing like China and the others, they don't allow every Tom and Dick and Harry to make choices on the politics, on the political leadership of their countries. Like in China, you don't just wake up and say you want to contest for president. Who are you? Have they understood you? In China, when you want to become president, you must write alternative documents for 7 consecutive years, giving alternative, how China can develop better than the current regime is doing. And then when they say yes, at least this man's papers have really held some water, then they think about you, and maybe you can take us forward. Because you know, like China is a central command economy, government plans for everybody, for everything. It's the alpha and omega, or controls the land. So they make sure that they minimize on the errors to be made when they are planning for their government. But here you send everybody to go and plan for you. So the errors can easily be done easily. Then the 7th pillar and last pillar of human development model is long health life. It's good life. We are all aspiring to live a good life. But you cannot reach good life unless you consider all the other 6 pillars above. How can Busoga now lead itself to a good, long life? How can we get there? I think it's the main reason why we are here. And fellow panelists, I know they're experts. They can expound more on this issue of how Busoga can live a good life. If we don't have employment, how can we move there? How can we turn our population to an advantage? We contribute, we are 4.3% of Uganda's total population. And with a beautiful geography, with streams, every village has a stream passing through. How are we utilizing all these things to make our life a better life? And then, as government, it has done a lot of interventions. In a summary, it has really tried to do, it has stressed itself. And I think President Museveni is one of the best leaders who can ever talk about, even when he's gone, for Uganda. To the extent that he's thinking, maybe let us motivate these people by giving them something sweet, like 1 million shilling, even the poorest person, let him test of how money feels when you have it in the pocket. But men are still drinking it and just eating it. They're not putting it in production. And this is what the intention is. The money is not a bonus for political elections. No, it is for your own enhancement, for your own change, for your own development. But people have land, and still they are not digging, they are not doing anything on that land. They would rather hire it out, rent it out to those who want to grow sugarcane. And then we blame those who are growing sugarcane. But the owners of the land prefer to rent out the land, go and buy a motorcycle, and become a border rider in town, while the land is managed by another person. That's what I know the situation is here in Busoga. Those who are poor don't know that they are poor. They choose their priority, they are prioritizing their life in a different way. And I think there's need for that change, mindset change, as one of the pillars in PDM to go extreme, especially using the church structure, because people respect more the church structure than any of the other political structures. To tell them, please use your land. Maybe we should also have tours as church leaders. Maybe we tell them, let our membership now take us their land and show us what you are using your land for. If you rent it out, please tell us that this land, 5 acres, 3 acres belonged to you one time, but you had to rent it out for 20 years. And then we start from there in telling them how they should utilize their land. The other intervention the government has always persistently, done is peace and stability. Everything you do, you can only be able to do it when there is peace and stability in the country. But we have it. And now how can we complain of poverty when Dr. Isaac is telling you that an avocado which is very wrinkled, it has stayed for 3 months in a cool room, is sold 3 avocados, small as my fold here, costing $2. Yeah, $10, $20. In Saudi Arabia, the market of avocado is abundant. Everything we have here has market elsewhere. But how do we fail to do it? Now, an example is in Bunyoro, where I am working. There is a new airport, Kabalega International Airport. It has been constructed as a heavy-duty airport. I think it is the best in Central Africa. It is for cargo. It's supposed to bring the equipment which are going to be used for construction of the refinery for oil. But what will that airport help Ugandan economy to market, to take our produce to better markets? How many people are aware that the facility is there for cargo? And what cargo are we going to take back? Last year I had a problem. I had a challenge. One of the ambassadors in Saudi Arabia, no, in Dubai, is the born of this town, was sending cement to Kabale. There's a rich man in Kabale who wanted to build his building and chose to buy his cement for construction from Dubai. Because the cement here we have from Tororo, Hima, has the leakages, the leaking walls. 2 years after construction, the walls are leaking, and the engineers are quiet. They are not saying that there's a problem here with this. People are building houses, and when they grow old, the houses will be falling on them. So he was asking now, what can be exported from Kabale or Mbarara for the containers going back to Dubai? Almost free shipment. Literally speaking, it was a big problem. What was available then was in Mbarara were cows and what? And matoke. But imagine in a container, one container, how much matoke do you put in a container? Is that does it add value anyway? So these are issues we need to think about. Government has put up the infrastructure. It is now improving. Government is advocating now, especially through the Office of the President, for establishment of regional training hubs, purposely for skilling the youth. But the youth are stubborn, they're not going to train there. The situation is as old as what Madiban was advocating for when he started building Wairak as a vocational training, a skills training center, and the Basuka said, no, we shall not take our children for training, for vocational, we want them to train for these white-collar jobs. The Basuka rejected, that's what Wairak had been constructed for. But even today, our children are not being guided rightly to do the right training, to go for right training. An example is we have Crescent Crane Hotel here. It is training people, and I attended the last graduation. They say before graduation, 87% of their graduates are booked. Yeah? They are booked already before they are turned out. Now, but how many of our parents are aware that hoteliers, people who are working in hotels as chefs, in room keeping and all that, are earning more than bachelors of science holders, bachelors of swasa, a lot of things. So we need to train our boys. We need to encourage our community, especially with the land people, to tell them the hard truth so that they can go and acquire the right knowledge. I know there's a lot to talk.
Mr. Robert, you really brought up a number of issues, especially within the 7 pillars. And Mr. Opio, you've worked on projects around mindset change, but also around agribusiness. I remember you worked on a project in systemic approach, strengthening agribusiness, vocational education and training. And that was really a very good project that I somehow followed. How do we engage the people within Busoga to make sure that they are also looking at adding value to their small produce at the end of the day? Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot. And I think a lot has been said. First and foremost, when I read the concept note that you shared, this is quite a lot of problem. And like you mentioned at the beginning, it is not the Busoga problem, it's the Uganda problem. And out of all those problems, you can see a lot of structural issues. And within those structural issues, you cannot solve one problem and you think you are going to transform people into the cash economy. That is why CODE promotes what we call the system strengthening. If, for example, you want to add value, but before even you add value, there's a lot of steps that you need to take. One is improving the skills. Colleagues have already spoken about the issue of the skills. If you look at the percentage of the youth not in education, not in training, they are quite huge. When we started the skilling project here last year, where we are working with 500 youth in Kambuli and Jinja, you can realize that the youth are not going to school because they don't want to go, but they cannot afford. But at the same time, they have the potential. That is why we came up with the type of skilling which it takes only 4 months. And within those 4 months, they select the type of enterprises they are going to engage in. At this time, we are promoting skilling in poultry, piggery, and fish farming. And then at the end, they go for placement, what we call the work-based learning, with some of the experience in private sector. You know, sometimes when we talk about private sector, people are talking about Madvani, people are talking about Kakira Sugar and the rest. But these are the most successful farmers from within the community who are able to earn all these youth and take them through the coaching and mentorship on how to be successful. Now, I'm explaining why I'm calling it a system approach. At the end, when they do their work-based learning, which is placement, they are supported with a startup capital. Sometimes there's been a lot of blame that the youth don't want to start a business, but then somebody who has not started anything, has not been in business, we are expecting that person to maybe get the training, go to the bank, and borrow the money. Is it practical? It is not. So strengthening the system up to the level where somebody is able to engage is very important. So like I said, training, they go for placement, and then after placement, they are supported with the startup capital. And then within that startup capital, they are provided with a financial discipline. Going through the BSLA, they have to save and lend among themselves. And engaging now with the entire stakeholders. For example, the Deputy RCC has spoken about the program that the government is having. Those are very cheap money that before even going to the bank, the youth need to get such kind of money. If they get such kind of money, like you said, for validation, they can use that money to transform the products they have. And then once those products are tested and have the market, they will be now motivated, the banks will be motivated to provide them with the capital they need to grow. So I think we have quite a number of opportunities to go into validation for the youth. Start with the training, have them learn from people who have done a similar business, and then provide them with the capital for them to start. And then after that, connect them with some of the available opportunities. We have testimonies of people who have used 1 million to grow a business of over 50 million. And then we have testimonies of people who have come together, because youth are at the level of development. Their mind is winding. But if you bring them as a group, and then you let them know that if you work together, you can be successful. The more slow or the lazy one can be getting support from the others. But the most important aspect is also the market. So going to the market is not an easy thing. The issue of quality is very important. The previous speaker has already given us an example of cement. But also in food, I think food is also, the amount of scrutiny that people put in food is very critical. So I think as we look forward into the validation, the building blocks is very important. But then when we talk about access to finance, I think there could be bankers here. When a bank is assessing a youth, it's the same way it's assessing a doctor. They don't give any other alternative assessment, but engaging with them to let them know that when a youth is engaged in agriculture or is going into value addition, agriculture is not like selling hardware where you get income throughout. Is it possible for the loan to be structured in such a way that they pay when they are harvested? But as CODE, due to our interaction with the bank, we also realize that the amount of money that people borrow, we all have experiences, is over and above what they want to invest. You have 1 acre of land, you want to borrow 200 million. The bank can give you, but at the end, that's where you get people on trees and not wanting to stay at all. So I think helping the youth to understand the type of financial product available and how they can use that product to improve on their business is very important. Like he said, we developed a system that helps the financial institution to do an assessment of a farmer who wants to borrow. We call it the cash flow of a farmer. If I have 1 acre of land, I'm planting onions, how much money do I need? And do I need that money at once? No. I need money when I want to buy inputs from him. I need money when I want to spray my garden. Then I will need money when I want to market. So that money is provided in stages, and there will be no way somebody can use the money for doing other things. So I think building the financial discipline, connecting the youth to available opportunities, working on the skills, and if you look at the population of Busoga, for example, the number of people who are over 60 years is quite minimal. But then the type of technology we are talking about, it needs a mind which is still fresh. So the aspect of succession planning, integrating this youth to some of these farmers associations into the cooperative so that they can get wisdom on how to succeed in such type of businesses. But at the same time, they will be now supporting our older generation on how to use the current available technologies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lincoln. You bring out very important aspects. And before I go to the district production officer, I want to pick up from a point where you mentioned some of the interventions of CODE. And people in the house here actually carrying out similar or related interventions in the different parts of Uganda. And from a global level, I know CODE is a very good partner to Caritas Internationalis. And even when you check on the website of CODE, you'll see that down in Caritas International, it's a member of Caritas Internationalis. Maybe in Uganda, have there been interventions where you've had partnerships with Caritas? Because I know you've had projects in northern Uganda and West Nile. And yes, we have agronomists here, project experts, different development partners probably, and civil society. So how would we have probably CODE or civil society organizations generally collaborate to make sure that we bring together what we have? We have the car, we have the office, maybe we have the agronomists, and maybe how best can we collaborate as Caritas with CODE, but generally as civil society organizations to ensure transformation. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot. During introduction, I mentioned that CODE is a member of Caritas, and in Uganda we have worked with quite a number of dioceses, starting with the current situation. We have a partnership with the Caritas Marua Diocese, and I know the ED is around. Yeah, so currently we have a project which is strengthening the youth with ready ideas, the startups, but also the youth who are already into business. And we are looking at 3 things: strengthening their business management capacity, access to market, access to finance, and strengthening them to ensure that they integrate within the business ecosystem, the business network. And with the Caritas Arua, we have been working, I think, from 2018 up to now. But also other Caritases, for example, Caritas Moroto, Caritas Kotido, Sokadido, Father Michael is here. We have worked together. So in terms of partnership, CODE start within the Caritas family, and looking at the concept note that you shared, because currently we have a philosophy of locally led development, and we know that the Caritas dioceses are well placed to promote local development working with the code, building the system around our smallholder farmers can be transformed into the cash economy. So like you mentioned, I think the most important thing is there's a need for us to know the challenge, work on some of these challenges together, brainstorm, and then financial opportunities can come, and some of these can be tested, and then we grow it to ensure that our main stakeholders there, who are the smallholder farmers, women, and the youth, can really benefit and move into the cash economy. So CODED is open for partnership, and like I said, we already work with quite a number of Caritas dioceses, and we have had discussions with the Caritas importers on how to work together. So we are open, and I think the most important thing is working together to understand the problem, working together to ensure that the system that need to be put in place are able to transform our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lincoln. We are going to have a session of question and answer from what has been shared so far. But we wish to hear from the District Production Officer of Ginger, as the person in charge of production. How do you rate, how do you find the people's production mechanisms? Are the production mechanisms efficient to ensure transformation of the people? What are the barriers, which challenges, how possibly can people do differently? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Once again, my name is Shafal, Agriculture Officer, Ginger District Local Government, sitting in for the DPO, who is away on leave, sick leave. We are tackling quite a serious question, a serious concern, the issue to do with land. And we are all aware that land is inelastic. As much as we are producing, we are increasing, there is no under any circumstance that we shall wake up one day and land has increased. So we are here talking about access. Access is a major issue. We are talking about the youth, we are talking about the women, that is gender inclusivity, the people with disabilities. But for starters, I would wish to note that the average land holding of a household in Uganda, in Ginger, land holding is just half an acre. So I think for starters, that has to sink in. So that as we talk about access, even the people we think that actually have land, they don't even have it. So we have those the socially constructed norms. We've talked about issues to do with inheritance. So many times the youth, the children, the women, you have to seek permission to have access to the land when it is there. The head of the house is superior, sometimes they don't listen. And this has actually hindered the productivity of our population. So when we talk about the youth in particular, the youth, we must take it that for us in Uganda we say, so it simply means that our next generation, whatever will come tomorrow and what will happen, will actually be determined by the youth. What kind of knowledge are we transferring to them? How are we engaging these youth? Are we sure they are responsible enough? What kind of role models have we played? For me, I'm throwing the ball back to the community and us as the parents and as the caregivers and caretakers. Are we really modeling the youth into what we want them to be? Are we shaping our country towards what we would like to see even when we are not here? I think this conversation goes way beyond what we can see today. The youth are a bit tricky. We talk about issues of access, we deny them this and that, but because they're a bit tricky and cheeky, so many times they've been granted access, only to realize they've misused it, you see? So as you talk about them being denied these resources, At the back of the mind also the parents are like, if I gave this child access to my land, will I come back and find it the next day? You see? These are all issues that keep coming up, and this has actually hindered the long-term productivity of these youth. You find they can only engage in small production. Then you're going to find the large-scale, long-term production being taken up majorly by the men in the villages. And remember, the men, the funny thing is they will engage in, they control 80% of resources. But then when it comes to the work, especially the women will do 80% of the work in these gardens. And then the youth, those ones, they want the white-collar jobs, they want to go and look nice in the cities, they want to go and ride borders. Their interest in agriculture is a bit minimal. So now, when we talk about how we are engaging these youth as a government, as the production department in Jinja, you are all aware that our government programs are gender inclusive. At the moment, we are implementing the National Development Plan 4. We are aware that His Excellency has actually taken on the driving seat as far as PDM is concerned, and actually he has instructed us. As a matter of fact, I think RCC will be my witness. If we don't have 30% as beneficiaries and participants in the PDM, that one I wouldn't even be sitting here. So we are talking empowerment, we are talking access, and government is doing what it can deliberately. Actually, the women are also not left behind because they take majority of the share. You look at the youth, 30%. You look at also the women, they take 30%. That means when you look at the PDM cake in terms of the money that is being dispersed, 60% is going to the vulnerable. If I also put added the PWDs, people with disabilities, we are talking 70%. You see? So it is deliberate. And from the trainings that we have had, if you are to actually help the marginalized, you are supposed to be intentional. So I'd like to thank government for those efforts because they are intentional in what they are doing. It will be us, the youth, because I'm also among the youth, that will actually decide to throw in the towel. But at least we are doing what we can to make sure that we move together. So as the PDM is concerned, when we talk about transformation, we are looking at transforming the household into the economy. In PDM, we talk about households because we are of the view that if we are going to develop, actually the only charity begins at home, right? So it won't be just with the behavior and all the sorts. Now you, the parent, the mother and the father, are you trying to nurture these children to show them how do you make money? Some of us spoil our children. Whatever they ask for them, they are always watching video games. The other time I was with a parent and he was telling the child that now, you know, you've refused to greet me, I will not take you to Bouncing Castle. And he said, no, even if you don't take me from me, I don't mind. So you see these kinds of things, we have to mold these children. You have a coffee plantation, are you sure you've taught them how to prune? Are you sure you've shown them how to keep quality? Because in the end, when we talk about the markets, it all goes back to quality. You see? So are we sure we are engaging them enough? So for us, when we talk about the households, and we've given them this money, we're supposed to work as a team. Whether they give the money to me and I pass on the responsibility of the household to pay back that money. That's not a punishment. We are just making sure that you are going to work as a team and you follow through. You're going to lay down your plans, sit down as a household, as a father, you say, okay, Junior, now you're 18 years, you see, but you have scarcity of land. And now we have our half an acre, this coffee has educated you. What else can we do? So that you also have something that is going to bring in money. You see, we talk about good enterprise mix, you see? So that, you know, when the father is getting the money from the coffee, The mother is also getting some, you know, the women again play a very big role when it comes to family nutrition. Yes, they are the ones who are going to go run around, you know, farming some dodo. For you, when you're stuck somewhere, you'll come back and
Mr. Kapa, I want to interject. There is a point I don't want to miss, especially about the PDM before you go to the enterprises. Sometimes when I look at PDM, I feel like how I wish government gave that money to Caritas. Like when you read PDM on paper, PDM is perfect. PDM is what Uganda wants. Come on the ground. The reality seems to be not as it's reflected on the paper. So, and probably also, Mr. Robert, since you are in government, how best can government collaborate with the civil society organizations, especially Caritas? We have the institutions, we have the structure, but government comes up with the money, with the programs, changing the Youth Livelihood Fund, the MIOGA, Operation Wealth Creation, PDM, changing the names of nearly similar projects, altering approaches, but usually with minimal impact. What if you worked with the existing structures like a Caritas? And you just give a small answer, and I think Mr. Robert has a burning answer. Would we begin with Mr. Robert? Okay.
Okay, in the last presidential campaigns, and it's very deliberate in the planning of government, that the church is going to get on board in these interventions, such that some of the financing for poverty, eradication, are going to be spearheaded by the church. I think the religious council, this is what I've been pushing for this time around, and the president said yes. And I know that once that is done, then Caritas will automatically be on board. As I told you, as I said, it is very common that you find government program like PDM fails in a certain community. But the same community maintains and steadily sustains small loans gotten from black and these other kind of inbox kind of
The
dieselers. They run sustainably, they succeed for years and years. They exist. But when it comes to government intervention programs, people interpret it, misinterpret it as a bonus. Maybe they take it for granted. It is 1 million, and others are like, I can't take that 1 million. Doesn't have it in the pocket, but is busy going for these small banks, these household kind of loans, 300, 150, and he maintains his membership for 10, 15 years. Some have even gone up to 20 years. They are succeeding. So it is a question that we're also asking: why is government failing on the other side, and the community initiatives of that nature continue to exist? Maybe that's where the government and the president has picked from.
Okay, Mr. Robert, thank you so much for that response. I want to hear Mr. Safan. We have been notified that actually we have breakfast. It is just behind here. So break. We have break tea behind here. And so we just want to wrap up with him. We have a few questions and the answers. We go for tea, then we return and we wrap up with the other parts of the program. Yes, Mr. Safan, the role of government and probably how you can partner with existing CSOs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The role of government, one, we've given direction through the ministry. They've done what we call zoning. They've actually chosen the specific enterprises that can do well in Jinja, and I think every district as a whole, we know which enterprises we can do. For example, Jinja, we have poultry, we have fisheries, because you know we have the lake around. We have people doing aquaculture, you know, those doing fisheries in ponds, and we have coffee and cocoa. And I'd like to add my voice, because when I was reading the concept note you said to me, you rated cocoa as an enterprise that is driving people into poverty. And actually, if you give us the opportunity, we shall show you that actually it has great potential. It is even one of the enterprises that is being promoted under the PDA. So we also look at food security, where we have cassava, we have maize, we have soybean, and we have the vegetables. So at least government has now given the strategic direction, and through which the youth and the entire population can follow to make sure that they can engage in the money economy. So as Jinja, we have a very conducive environment. they're actually working with a number of
Yes, maybe
NGOs.
just if I may interject something small actually when you point about cocoa. It sometimes actually it really beats my understanding because ideally cash crops are supposed to foster development in the community. That is the ideal thing. But actually in the context of Busoga, you will realize that actually sugarcane and cocoa do the contrary. Why? When people adopt these cash crops, they usually the small, you pointed out that actually people have like half an acre, that's the average. People will use the small land they have to grow the sugarcane and to grow the cocoa. And in the end, they do not have even the basic food that is needed for home consumption. But what happens? When you would think that when someone grows the cash crop, then they are going to get cash, the people who are acting as middlemen with the factories that buy the sugarcane are actually manipulating the farmers down. The time for harvesting comes, the people who manage the value chain declare that there has been a fall within the prices. And the farmer down has no option but to sell the crops at those low kind of costs. We have had the issues of Busoga growers cooperatives, but sometimes you realize that actually these guys become like brokers to make sure that actually the farmer suffers. So the cash crop is supposed to foster development, but many times it's the contrary. I think we shall pick on our debate from that point. We don't want to mix the break and the lunch. Can we have our break tea and return to wrap up our conversation? Thank you so much. We can keep in a social interaction with our guests, and we shall return with prepare all the questions about whatever has been mentioned, and when we return, we shall wrap up. Thank you. If Father says we pray for the break tea, then we got once.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Bless us, O Lord, and these your gifts we are about to receive from our goodness through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thank you so much. We can have our tea quickly and then return. Thank you. Thank you so much, our dear panelists, for this part of the session. We are going to pass here. We have a cup of tea, and then we return to complete the session.